Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video we're going to be taking a look at some incredibly fun battles in the Open Master League featuring Double Nuke Earthquake Landorus. Double Nuke Landorus, also known as Chatterus if you're a Boy Ghost viewer, is an incredibly fun Pokemon to run, as both Stone Edge and Earthquake on a Pokemon with that high of attack stat just wreak absolute mayhem on just about anything it can encounter. I paired up Landorus with Reshiram and Zekrom, and honestly had some nice results with the team. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches and check out Earthquake Landorus in action in the Master League. Hopping to the first match, picking up a very nice lead, Therian Landorus into Groudon. Now with Landorus' typical moveset, I'd have to fire off multiple superpowers here, but now I can just go straight for the Earthquake. Earthquake smacks the Groudon, and to add insult to injury, I catch the Fire Punch onto the Reshiram. That does absolutely no damage. My opponent is now going to respond with Rayquaza. Rayquaza is a pretty tough Pokemon for this team. I'm actually going to let the Breaking Swipe go and instead choose to farm down with Zekrom. Zekrom should be able to farm down just as they reach a second Breaking Swipe, and denying them that charge move is absolutely massive. My opponent is going to send back in the Groudon. Groudon makes it to the Precipice Blades, but the fact that they're sending in the Groudon hopefully means they are not a fan of Zekrom in the back. Zekrom farms down. It's a Lugia in the back, and this game should be over, as I'll be able to make it to the back-to-back Fusion Bolts. Fusion Bolt number 1 gets the first shield, and now I'm going for Fusion Bolt number 2. Fusion Bolt number 2 gets the second shield, and now I can send in the Landorus. And Landorus is running Stone Edge as well as Earthquake, specifically so I can still hit the flyers. Stone Edge is going to connect onto the Lugia. At this point, their only win con is full sending the Aeroblast, so I commit the shield. They go for the Sky Attack. They'll make a second Sky Attack, but that is not going to be enough damage here. Therian Landorus, not the tankiest Pokemon, but is able to shrug off the Sky Attack and make it to the Stone Edge. Stone Edge from the Landorus KOs the Lugia, and that is a good game. Hopping into the next match, leading Landorus into Zacian. Now this is a matchup where Zacian doesn't really have to fear Stone Edge. Stone Edge does not hit for a lot of damage, so the good news for me is that Zacian has no reason to shield. Farming up, going for the Earthquake with the Landorus. It connects, nearly one-shotting the Zacian. Zacian returns fire with energy. They go for the close combat there. Opponent now going to save switch into Lugia. I'm going to fire off the Stone Edge with the Landorus, and then look to send in Zekrom. Stone Edge will be shielded. I'm now going to send in Zekrom. Zekrom farming up and going for the Fusion Bolts before they're able to make it to the Aeroblast. This will not be lethal, but it will hit for some nice super effective damage. My opponent does have enough for the Aeroblast here. I actually decided to let this go. My opponent full sends the Aeroblast. This does mean they can farm down, so I've lost switch. But the nice thing is I can use this as an opportunity to get some farm with Reshiram. So Reshiram is going to be hit with a Sky Attack from the Lugia. Reshiram is going to be met with Zacian. Zacian makes it to the last second charge move here. They're trying to double up on close combats. I shield the first. The Dragon Breath KOs, and in the back, my opponent has Yveltal, and this game should be over. I'm firing off the Fusion Flare. My opponent commits the shield. Oh no, it is Draco Meteor time. Opponent getting hit with nuke moves left, right, and center. Down goes Yveltal, and that is a good game. Picking up a tough lead in the next match, Landorus into Mewtwo. Mewtwo just hits absurdly hard in neutral situations, so even a neutral Psy Strike is going to be taking my Landorus into the red health. They do build up to a potential Ice Beam. I'm going to let it through. Thankfully, just a Psy Strike, and now it's my turn to return the favor. Landorus going for the Earthquake. Massive damage onto the Mewtwo, and I'm able to snipe with Reshiram. We'll have to see what does my opponent want to send into the Reshiram. They bring in Dialga. The nice thing is, I can either force a shield or a switch advantage here with the Fusion Flare, so I'm going to be going straight for it. Fusion Flare gets no shielded. Opponent tries to make it to a charge move, and they do at the last possible second. I'm going to no shield here. It's just the Iron Head. In the back, my opponent has Kyogre, and Kyogre is going to have a terrible day against Zekrom. At this point, my opponent, outside of landing a Blizzard, doesn't really have a win con. They're going to be firing off a Surf. That's not going to do a lot of damage, as Zekrom is able to resist all water attacks. I'm firing off the Fusion Bolt here. Fusion Bolt is going to be shielded. My opponent still trying to find a win con. They're over farming a ton with Kyogre, and to add insult to injury, we got the last second catch back onto the Landorus. Opponent undercharges, but it's still not going to be enough. Zekrom farms down Kyogre, and secures the win. We see a familiar lead in the next match, Landorus into Zacian, and at this point we already know what to do. Opponents show absolutely no respect whatsoever for the Earthquake, so we may as well full send it. Landorus going for the Earthquake, it connects onto the Zacian. Zacian is going to return fire here. I tank whatever they throw, they go for the Wild Charge. I try and catch the Wild Charge onto Reshiram. They're going to save energy for later. Now they're going to send in Kyogre. Kyogre is hitting for neutral here with the Waterfalls and the Surf. Surf is going to connect, getting the Reshiram low. Reshiram farming up to the back-to-back Fusion Flares. So this way, I can either get damage on them or get a shield advantage. My opponent commits the shield. This Fusion Flare will not be lethal, but it is going to be getting that Kyogre low. Kyogre does lead with energy, but I can send in Zekrom, and Zekrom is just such a wall to energy from Kyogre. Surf does absolutely nothing. Zekrom gets the farm down. I know that they do have some energy on that Zacian. The question is, do we see it here? Opponent sends in the Zacian, they get Dragon Breath down, and it's Dialga in the back. And now I can Outrage to grab the shield and Earthquake for the win. I fire off the Outrage. Opponent no shields. We're going for the 1 HP Earthquake, but they concede the match. Dream lead in the next match, Landorus into Melmetal. My opponent is going to save switch into Gyarados, so my opponent running a bit of a budget team. I go for the Aqua Tail catch, but my opponent shows great patience, hanging on to their energy, and now they get to fire off a Crunch into the Zekrom. Crunch does get the defense debuff. That is a bit unfortunate. I'm going to fire off the Fusion Bolt, but if Gyarados wants, they can just shield, farm down, and take switch advantage, and that's exactly what they're going to do. But I can use this as an opportunity to get energy on Reshiram, because the nice thing is, Reshiram with energy and Landorus, Melmetal doesn't want to see either one. Reshiram looking for the farm down, not quite able to get there. They make it to another Aqua Tail. That will get me low. I'm able to get the farm down. I'll have to see what does my opponent have in the back. They have Dragonite. I didn't quite make it to the Draco Meteor. I go for the Fusion Flare. Opponent commits the shield. In comes the Landorus. Opponent sends in the Melmetal, and it's gonna be good night to Melmetal. Earthquake one-shots the Melmetal. Back in comes the Dragonite, and Dragonite will be smacked with the Stone Edge. Stone Edge onto the Dragonite, gets him low, and the opponent concedes the match. Not the most comfortable lead in the next match, Landorus into Dragonite, so I will immediately save switch into Reshiram. Reshiram dealing quite a lot of Dragon Breath damage, but taking a lot of Dragon Breath damage in return. Reshiram will commit the shield on the Dragon Claw, farming up and going for the Fusion Flare. Fusion Flare is resisted, but it will be lethal. Fusion Flare gets shielded. It's gonna be a race. Going for the farm down, and Reshiram with 1 HP takes down the Dragonite. My opponent now going to send in Mewtwo. Mewtwo will be answered with the Landorus. So far, no one's respected the Earthquake, so why would they start now? They go for the Psy Strike, and I'm going straight for the Earthquake into the Mewtwo. Earthquake able to connect, and we get the snipe with Zekrom. But happiness is short-lived as it's a Zacian in the back, and if Zacian has Play Rough, I'm in a lot of trouble here. I will commit the shield. Zacian is running Play Rough, and unfortunately, if they overfarm correctly, I just lose this game. There's just not a win con for me, because Fusion Bolt does not KO here. I can make it to the Fusion Bolt. Bit of unfortunate timing there, throwing on alignment, but as you're going to see, Fusion Bolt just does not do enough damage, and my opponent is going to perfectly overfarm in this matchup. They leave with a massive amount of energy, Play Rough, KOs, and they make it to the close combat versus the Landorus. So we land the Earthquake, but the opponent gets the last laugh and the win. Speaking of Mewtwo, guess what we see on the lead in the next match? So far, again, we've had 0 Earthquake shielded, so why would this opponent be any different? They're farming up to 6. This is not even enough for the Ice Beam, so that's a very safe no shield. And then, as always, going straight for the Earthquake. Earthquake, big damage. We go for the Reshiram, but my opponent simultaneously save switches into Dialga. I'm firing off the Fusion Flare here. Fusion Flare can grab switch advantage or shield advantage. My opponent commits the shield. Farming up with the Reshiram. Great matchup knowledge by my opponent, knowing that they can shield once and farm down. I'm going to send in Zekrom. I will need to double shield, but I can leave with a lot of energy on the Zekrom. And if it's the team that I saw earlier, there's hopefully a Kyogre in the back. They're firing off another charge move. I shield up another Iron Head. This will be close, and I get the farm down. That's massive. What do they have in back? Is it the Kyogre? It is. I just have to throw in the middle of their waterfalls so they're not able to catch. I'm firing off the Fusion Bolt here. Kyogre is going to expend the final shield. Going for Fusion Bolt number 2 again in the middle of their waterfall. Fusion Bolt gets the KO. In comes Mewtwo. And we get the catch onto Landorus. Let's go. Side Strike KOs the Landorus, but the Zekrom farms down. Moving into the next match, leading Landorus into Dragonite. This is a bit of an uncomfortable matchup for the Landorus because I have absolutely no fast move pressure. I'm staying in, farming up with the Landorus, going for the Stone Edge, but my opponent makes an insane catch, catching the Stone Edge onto Groudon. That is really unfortunate. I'm just going to stay in with the Landorus because my back line does not want to see Groudon. Groudon will go for the Fire Punch. I tank that no problem. My opponent knows they can very comfortably live a superpower. So why would they shield? They get hit with the Earthquake and down goes Groudon. In comes the Dragonite. Oh no, I don't get the Stone Edge. And not getting to that Stone Edge may have just lost me the game. Because Dragonite has a massive energy lead. And now, since I don't have a shield advantage, I'm in a lot of trouble. So I have to shield the Reshiram here. Reshiram farming up, making it to the Fusion Flare. Fusion Flare, even though it's resisted, will be lethal here. Fusion Flare gets the KO. What do they have in the back? It's Metagross, and unfortunately, I have lost this game. My only hope is that for some reason, they go for a bait here. So, I have to try and no-shield. My opponent goes straight for the Earthquake, and that's game over. Picking up a pretty decent lead in the next match, Landorus into Dialga. Now this matchup is a lot better when you're running Superpower just due to the fact that you can dramatically outpace the Dialga. Dialga's like Shield in the first, so I'm going to farm up to the Earthquake, go for the Stone Edge, and I am so happy that I did because my opponent catches the move onto Lugia. I'm going to farm up a little bit of extra energy with the Landorus and send in Zekrom. Zekrom farming up. Zekrom will go for the Fusion Bolt before they're able to make it to the Aeroblast. Fusion Bolt will be lethal. Opponent commits the shield. They are looking to try and make a play for Switch here. Decision time, I honestly elect to let this go because I don't really value Switch advantage as much as I value getting energy onto my Reshiram. So I'm going to send in Reshiram here, look for the farm down, and get it. My opponent not able to make a charge move. In comes Dialga. I'm going for the Fusion Flare. They're at a shield disadvantage. Are they willing to burn the final shield? Yes, they are. I pivot into Landorus, and it's a Ho-Oh in the back. And double nuke Landorus is about to go on a nuking spree. Stone Edge one-shots the Ho-Oh, bring back in the Dialga. Dialga not going to be able to get rid of the Landorus here. Ironhead gets shielded, and they resign the match before I can Earthquake. Hopping into the final match, leading Landorus into Dragonite. I'm going to save switch into Reshiram. My opponent staying in, knowing they're going to be able to outpace and force the first shield with the Dragon Claw. Honestly, I'm more than fine with that because I'm getting some nice Dragon Breath damage off onto the Dragonite. I'm going for the Fusion Flare here. Opponent has to shield if they want to preserve the Dragonite, and they do. They're now going to send in their own Landorus. Landorus looking for the farm down, but that allows me to make it to a Fusion Flare. Fusion Flare is going to get a shield from my opponent. Landorus gets the full farm down, and now I'm in a bit of an interesting spot. I'm going to decide to send in Zekrom here. I'm just going to try and go for the one shield farm down with Zekrom and hope that Zekrom with energy can do well versus whatever they have in the back. They go for the Stone Edge. I'm farming up with the Zekrom. This is enough for another Stone Edge, so I will commit the shield. It is the Stone Edge. Landorus cannot make another charge move, and if they bring in the Dragonite, I'm going straight for the Fusion Bolt. Opponent, they're thinking about it here. They send in the Dragonite, but they make a beautiful catch, catching the Fusion Bolt onto Groudon where it's double resisted. I need the Fusion Bolt for later, so I farm up, switch back into the Landorus because every good catch deserves another. We catch the Fire Punch onto Landorus, and now we're in a very nice spot where we can tank a Fire Punch, make it to the Earthquake, which will be easily getting rid of the Groudon, and with the Fusion Bolt banked, this game is won. So I'm going for the Earthquake here. Earthquake is going to be taking out the Groudon. In comes the Dragonite. They have to throw energy because I would make it to a Stone Edge, and with the Fusion Bolt loaded, Zekrom will finish this game. So, things definitely got a bit scary in the mid-game with that beautiful catch from my opponent, but thankfully, still able to get the win. All in all, I had a ton of fun running Earthquake Landorus. I will say Superpower on Landorus is definitely the more consistent moveset, as you can get to it very quickly, but people's just complete disregard for the fact that Landorus can learn Earthquake definitely gave me a bit of an advantage in some matchups, as people were just completely unprepared for the sheer amount of damage. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you're enjoying the content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And a special thank you as always to our members here on YouTube. The support you guys provide is absolutely incredible. So thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.